Hi everyone and welcome to the new year. It's 2015 and I thought I would do a shop update. I've been in the shop all night working on a couple of mallets, which is going to be an upcoming video in a little while. And I just love making my own tools, and I love the process of that and how fun it is to make something that you actually use. So that really kind of got me thinking about a couple of things. So I thought I would talk about them a little bit. I got a question the other day. Someone said to me, "Hey, I really like your videos. I would like to get into woodworking, but I'm not quite sure where to start. Do you have any advice?" So that got me thinking. I was thinking about who does woodworking, who's into woodworking. And I'm thinking there are three categories of people who are into woodworking. First, you somehow grew up with woodworking. Your father, your grandfather, somebody in your family introduced you to it. And in that sense, you already have some familiarity. Maybe you even have some tools handed down to you. If you're in this category, you're not really looking for advice in the same way. And then you have the DIYer. Now, this is somebody who have no familiarity with woodworking and they really just need something. Maybe they're looking for a piece of furniture and it's too expensive to buy, or they can't find something that fits them, or they have a very specific need in mind. Woodworking is kind of secondary in this case. If that's the case, if you're coming at it from that point of view, that you're looking to make something specific, then I would be very practical in how I go about that. I would, invest in a cheap table saw to get going. I would buy a Craig jig, a drill, and kind of go from there and upgrade as you go along. But start small and have a very practical goal in mind. Like, what do I need to build this table or this desk or this bookshelf or whatever it is that you need to, that you want to build. Then you have a third person, and I was thinking about this too. And this is kind of like, the third category is a person, often someone who has a professional career, often in a technical field, like a programmer or engineer or something like that. And they are looking to get a hobby, to improve themselves, to learn a skill. And here, it's often the woodworking itself that's appealing. The nice tools, the relationship that you have with your tools, the concept of trying out new joints and playing in the shop. Projects often in this case are secondary. Woodworking comes first here. And if that's your case, if you're coming at it from that point of view, where you would like to get into woodworking but you're not quite sure where to start, if you're coming at it from the woodworking point of view, then I would maybe get a handsaw first, maybe a set of chisels, hand tools that would enable you to kind of get going and play a little bit. Maybe not power tools right away, but if you were to get power tools in that case, maybe I would even go with a bandsaw, because that's so very practical to make smaller cuts, especially if you're working on smaller projects, and very quick and easy to work with. So often what those people would like to do is kind of set up shop right away. They want to get a bench going, they want to organize their tools. They are often maybe looking to buy high quality tools right away. They don't want to work their way up. And this is actually something where I think it's often a good idea to work your way up to nice tools. Because if you buy the most expensive saw right away, you don't really appreciate it. In many ways, in order to really appreciate something and understand why it's great, you really want to start with a lower brand or model, and then go through that process and kind of fight with it and fight with your projects with it, then to upgrade later on, because then you really appreciate it. And that's the same kind of thing with wood too. I think it's a good idea to start with lower quality wood, framing lumber, pine, things like that are really easy to work with. I would not start with mahogany or walnut or maple right away, because I don't know, you don't appreciate it in the same way. It's much more rewarding after you've struggled a little bit with more, framing lumber and things like that. Not to say that nice woods definitely make a big difference to work with. And that kind of reminded me, I was in the antique store the other day. If you follow me on social media, you might have seen a few photos. And I really like to go to some antique stores that sell vintage tools every now and then. because they really give you an appreciation of what was before, what types of tools existed, because they don't make all of those anymore, and the quality of them as well. And I think that's a really good place to start if you're looking to get into woodworking and even get an idea of it, to go there and look around and maybe pick up something and start building your collection in that sense. For example, this is something that I picked up at an antique store last year. It's a spoke shave. And I restored this, I took it apart, I sharpened the blade, and I've been using it quite a bit lately. And this is an example of something that you're really not going to find at a Home Depot or a Lowe's. They don't carry this kind of thing, but it's really useful for certain tasks and really kind of a nice tool to have. And they have lots of those types of things that can be fun to pick up and work with. This is an old Stanley that I got for $12, so it wasn't a huge investment, but it's been really great to have around. I actually just used these to shape the handle a little bit on this mallet, and it does a really good job doing that. So this is going to be an upcoming project. It's not quite finished yet, but almost. And here another thing here is if you're interested in getting into woodworking, I would really kind of start with maybe making my own tools, especially if you're coming from that point of view where you like to get into the craft of it, you like to learn a hobby. Then making your own tools is really the ultimate, because it's for you, first of all, so it's like a self-fulfilling thing. And it's just really fun. It's also nice because it's small. When you start with woodworking or being in the shop, the worst thing you can do is start a huge project. That's going to take forever and going to get you discouraged because you don't finish it and just drags out. The best thing to do is to make smaller projects. And to make a mallet, for example, is a great early on project. It's fun all the time to make mallets, really. But it's a great project because you don't need like a whole lot of wood. You can start with a small amount of nice wood or whatever, and you can make all kinds of nice tools. I also made this marking gauge a while back out of walnut. Again, not very big. It doesn't take a lot of materials, but I use it a lot. And I just like having my own tools around. I think that is just really cool. One reason why this marking gauge was really nice to make was because it's much larger than most of the ones that you buy in the store, and enables you to, it's really nice for a lot of projects. And another thing with this is it enables me to sharpen the nail here. And it's basically just a nail that I sharpened, and I'm using it as the sharp point on the marking gauge, and it works really well. So that's just another example of a tool that you can make yourself. Overall, I think that woodworking and hobbies like these are really great because they really enable you to create your own world and focus on something other than yourself or whatever it is. It's almost like you go into your shop and it's like a Zen kind of state that you're at least trying to get into, where you can focus on something very specifically. Practicing on a joint or building a mallet, whatever it is. So it's just a very nice, quiet, kind of focusing hobby for your mind. So I really like it from that point of view. I was also thinking about answering a couple of other questions that I've been getting lately, and one question that keeps reappearing is about beeswax. People who see my beeswax video, and it's about how, where do I get beeswax and how do I prepare it? And if you just go to a regular store and buy beeswax, it's usually quite expensive, and they sell them in very small amounts. And if you just want a little bit, that's fine. But if you want more, which I did, I called up a whole bunch of local apiaries in my area. I found one that produced large chunks of beeswax, and I asked where they sell it, and they said, hey, I'm going to be at the farmer's market. Why don't you come by and buy some there? So that's a really good idea. Call up local apiaries or go directly to your farmer's market. And that way you'll be able to find a local source for beeswax. And then I'll leave a link in the description for my awesome wax hacks video that has various recipes for different things to make with it. Oh yeah, if you want to see what it looks like, I haven't used all of mine yet. This is half of the block of beeswax that I bought, so I've got plenty left for more. And depending on what I'm making, I either combine it with oil or mineral spirits. depending on what it is that what kind of polish I'm making here. Another question that keeps coming back from time to time is whether I use raw or boiled linseed oil. And I have both on hand, but I tend to go with the raw. And I did a test not too long ago because I was curious how much oil really gets absorbed into the wood. So I had 2 blocks of wood, identical in size, they weighed the same amount, and one I basically soaked in linseed oil for 24 hours. The other one I just wiped with oil, like you do when you put on a finish. And then after the 24 hours, I weighed both of them, and they weighed exactly the same. So the one that was soaked in oil didn't absorb any more oil than the one that I just, wiped on. So that really got me to thinking that I'm not really looking for to completely, have the wood soak in oil. It doesn't absorb it that much. So when I look for oil, I don't really look as to build a finish. Like I look at it as a finishing coat, which is why I often combined it with wax, and that's what I use as a finish, the top finish. I don't put like polyurethane or anything like that on top of that then. So when people are looking to build a film, then they're concerned that the raw linseed oil doesn't dry fast enough, and that's pretty true. Raw linseed oil does take longer to dry. But since that's not what I'm going for, I'm looking for like a final finish. Then I just like to go with raw. I have found also that when you put on a thin coat of this wax oil mix on wood, then it really puts on the perfect amount of solid. And after you can buff that off, and I found that that dries really quickly, and it really just puts on just the right amount of oil and wax. So I see no reason really to just put on oil after having such a good success with this. So another question that I got relates to temperature, and I thought it was appropriate now when so many are dealing with cold weather. And this was about paint and temperature, and whether or not you can store paint in cold temperatures, or what happens with it. And because not everybody have a warm garage or a warm shop to store their paints in. And before I had this shop, I stored all of my paint cans in a shed in the carport. And one year it got really cold, and it went down to like 20 degrees for a couple of days. And after a couple of days, I realized I should probably check on the paint. And I went and checked on it, and I realized that a lot of it wasn't looking so good. So I brought all of my paint cans inside my living room, and they stayed there for a long time. And there was like a lot of paint up, cans really high up. And after I started to investigate what happened to them, and there were 3 different things that happened to them. Okay, if it was lower grade paint, and especially if there wasn't a whole lot in the can, then part of the paint solidified, and part of it, the water came on top. And that paint was just gone. There was no way to combine the 2 again. So those I just had to throw out. Then there were paint kind of like this one, which again was the lower quality paint, and it became very kind of gloppy and grainy. And this paint, I can stir it and kind of get it together, but it's not great paint. It doesn't go back to the way it was before. So this I used on like outdoor protecting things where I just want to use paint to kind of create protection, but I would not use this on any nice projects because it doesn't look that great. Then there was this 3rd kind of paint, and this was the better quality paint, the more expensive paint, and oil paint. And for all of those paints, nothing happened. They were great. You couldn't tell the difference. So I guess basically, it's not a good idea to have your paint freeze. So if you can avoid it, try to avoid it. But if you can't avoid it, make sure that you buy better quality paint or oil paint, because then it's gonna fare a lot better. Although if you are facing like sub-zero temperatures for an extended period of time, then everything is gonna freeze. So then, it doesn't really matter what paint you buy. So then you really wanna make sure that you store your paint inside in warmer temperatures. And another thing I just wanted to mention real quick, April Wilkerson from Wilkerdoos, she sent me this adorable little gift. She knows I like tiny things, like my little tiny plane. And she found this tiny ratchet and thought of me and sent me a really nice note along with it. So that was really nice, April. Thank you so much. I'm not quite sure what exactly I'm gonna use it for, but I'll find some use for it. And it is just adorable. Isn't it cute? It's really cute. So yeah, thank you so much for that. That was really cool. So yeah, this was kind of fun. Maybe I'll do this again. So just if you guys have questions, it's easier sometimes to just address them in video format than to respond to comments, and then it's a little easier to do. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.